everybody. So this is my first YouTube video, so we're gonna see how this goes. And I'm gonna do a cheap watercolor paint review demo situation. All right, so these are Royal Langnickel watercolors. If you can see that, yep, there's 12. I got these for $5 and Five Below, and so that comes to about 40 some cents a piece, which is really, really cheap for watercolor paints. Okay, so the colors that are in here, that's what they are looking like from the outside. I've actually opened this before and used them a little bit. That was like a year ago. And then I've just kind of had them because I have this problem that when I see art supplies, I want to buy them even if I know they're not actually really good quality. Okay, so that's them. Let's zoom in. All right. So it comes with the white, which take it or leave it. I don't really use white that much when I paint with watercolor. There's lemon yellow, there's yellow ochre, there's vermilion, crimson red lake. So it's a color similar to alizarin crimson. It's kind of the same thing. It's actually kind of different if you look at pigments, but yeah. Violet, Prussian blue, sap green, deep green, burnt sienna, burnt umber, and black. I really wish that there was an ultramarine blue in this. There's not. Oh wow, the purple looks kind of blue, but it is violet. It looks blue on the camera, but I assure you it is violet. That is interesting. Anyway, okay. I wish there was an ultramarine because ultramarine is like one of my go-to colors, but that's a bummer. So I've actually used these before, which is why they're kind of squeezed out, but I'm gonna use them again. So, how does one talk about art supplies? What an interesting thing. Anyway, so I am going to squeeze these out. I actually squeezed these out into this pan before, this cheap, and they all dried up and crumbled out, and it was a disaster. So that sucked. So I'm gonna use these wet. I feel like it's a really good test for the quality for watercolors to see how they dry and then how they re-wet. So these are obviously very cheap, like student grade, elementary grade watercolors. They probably do not have real pigments in them, especially since they don't say any pigment information on the tubes themselves, which they would if they had real ones in them. So I don't think these are light fast at all. They help like 41 cents a tube. What's in there? It's not. So I know some people would be like, well, if you put glycerin in them, I just feel like I should not have to doctor my art supplies that I buy. Like, I feel like if I was gonna make my own watercolors, which I do want to do sometime, then sure I can do that. But if I'm buying you, no, I don't think I should have to. So I'm not gonna squeeze out the whole pan because I know they're gonna dry up and crust off, and also because I don't want to you don't need that much paint. Although I like to use pans instead of liquid paint because I feel like I waste a lot of paint. Not that it really matters with these, which are 41 cents a thing. So I'm just gonna squeeze these out. I actually had a different set of Royal Langnickel watercolors when I was like in either middle school or high school before I actually really got into watercolors, and I had gouache too, and I had no idea what gouache was at the time, and they smelled really bad, and I did not know like a why or what was going on, but that's because I had no idea what was going on. Yeah, so I'm just gonna squeeze these out. Okay, so I have filled, so I filled this up. Oh, I forgot to mention that these are 12 milliliter tubes. 12 in the pack, 12 milliliter. Also, I probably put this order, I don't remember the order it came in, but I probably changed it because I like my yellows to start first, and then I like to go to like my purples, and then my blue, and then my green. So it's probably a different order. That probably is not information anybody cared about, but I have a specific way I like to set up my palettes. And these are also the tubes with the little piercy thing. So since I've had these before, I already did all that. Okay, so now I have my palette set up. And I'm actually not gonna paint using, look at all these crusties, look. I'm not actually gonna paint using this palette. I did scratch it up to kind of season it. I don't know if you can see it, but there's scratches all over it. Because when you have watercolors, you want your palette to have the ability for washes to spread and not bubble up. So let's take some of this and let's see. See, look at that. It's pilling. You don't want that. That's not good. No, you want this to happen. I don't know how this happened, but even now I'm re-wetting it, and yeah, so I'm not gonna use that. I do have this little hack to get a really good palette for the cheaps, and let me tell you what it is. A plate. Go to Walmart, go to the dollar store, go to your favorite supermarket, grocery store, and buy yourself a gosh darn white porcelain plate. Just a white dish plate, porcelain. Can you hear that? Yeah, buy that. This was 88 cents. At the dollar store, you can get a big one for $1, which I have also. And I also got one of those white serving trays. It's massive. That was a little bit more expensive, but literally 88 cents. And it will do what you need to do. Look at that. Look at that. It'll, perfect. So, there you go. All right. I'm so disorganized, I'm so sorry. Hopefully I get better at this. So the first thing that I want to do, I guess, is I want to swatch these. So this paper is Arches. It's 100% cotton. It's what I usually paint on. So this is like a cheap art supply, well, not a cheap art supply sale, because Arches is not cheap, but it is, and my brushes are not the cheapest, but the paints are cheap. The paper is artist quality. So I guess I'm going to start with the white. So this burnt umber, as it dries, I'm seeing a little bit of stuff, but I don't know if that's me or what. Because like these colors here are very flat, and then these start to have variation. And I'm like, is it the paper? Is it the pigment? I do not believe, I might be wrong, but I just do not believe that there are real pigments in any of these paints. I just do not. They do not handle like they are. Maybe I'm wrong. There's some variation here, but I don't know if that's like a pigment thing, I will say. So that's that. Okay. Now I do want to show you like how it disperses in the water on the palette. So let's wipe this up. Let's wipe it up. I would like you in the comments if you are interested in like anything watercolor related. Just tell me like what you would like to see on this channel, because I mean, I'm gonna post my art stuff and like demos or reviews or whatever, but I mean, there's so many channels like that, and I would like you to tell me some stuff that you find interesting, and maybe I can take that into account. Let's just use the black, because black's just black. So look at that. Let's get some water in there. So it's like, yeah, it behaves. You can dilute it. Beautiful, wonderful, awesome, perfecto. Great. Just gonna wipe that up. It's like, I wouldn't say they're bad to use. I just think they're not professional. It's just like, you could use them. They're fine for like sketches and practicing, but my thing is, if I want to make something that's gonna last, then I'd want to use the best materials. Also, these don't granulate, and they're not, it's like they're watercolor light. They're not exactly watercolor in its most amazing form, in my opinion. I feel like if I started using these, and then I started using, see, okay, look, that is not granulation, that's weirdness. I don't know what that is about. I'm not here for that. Look at that, that's grody. It's like if I started using these and then I used like actual pigments, watercolors, I think I might be like confused or disappointed when certain pigments did certain things that I did not want them to do, because each, like watercolor's dirt, like I said, like paint, all paints are dirt mixed with some kind of binder. So each dirt does different stuff when you suspend it in a liquid. Like each one does different things. So like ultramarine will behave differently than cadmium red, like, because it's a different dirt. So if I started using these and then I went to real watercolors, I'm like, why is this happening? The first time I like painted in class with watercolors and there's all this granulation happening with like burnt and I'm like, what is this? I was so confused. And then my friend was like, no, that's good. That means you have like real paints, like they're real good quality. And I'm like, what? I was so confused. Okay, so I'm gonna now work on this. Okay, so this is just a photo study. I really like doing portraits, so that's pretty much my personal work that I do. So let's just talk a little bit about the paints. I noticed that when I mixed colors together, it was duller than I was used to. I mean, when you mix any kind of paint together, student or professional, the colors will get muddier because it's less pure. So that's any paint, but specifically with these, I mixed the crimson red lake with the yellow ochre and the vermilion with the yellow ochre, and it felt kind of muddy to me. So that was another thing that I didn't really care for. So one reason to get professional paints over student paints is that professional paints have actual pigments in them. I do not believe that there are pigments in these paints. They didn't say so, and they don't behave as if they did have pigments in them. So I feel like it's a safe assumption that these would fade over time. They are not archival. So that's a worry that I would have using these on like any professional work. Also, the way that they handled was really weird. Like I could tell that it was not like a traditional watercolor or a higher quality watercolor because of the way the colors kind of fell onto the paper. There's also this weird thing where they weren't drying properly. Like they weren't drying fast enough, which I guess could also be the humidity in the air. But it was really weird because I feel like I've gotten used to paints drying at a certain time and I was using a paper that was familiar to me, so it was kind of confusing. So that was strange. And also, I will give that the colors are like standard colors. They seemed fairly accurate. Like the yellow ochre looked like yellow ochre should. The only one that didn't really look like it does in the pan was sap green. It seemed kind of light. I didn't actually use it in the painting very much, but it was the color when you laid it down that it should have been. The Prussian blue seemed a little bit light to me, like it wasn't as rich or as deep as some I've used in the past, but it's fine. I really bummed that there is not ultramarine in this set. Ultramarine to me is just like a given color, like you just need it in your set. Like lemon yellow or a cad yellow, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue to me is a standard primaries that you need in a watercolor set. I don't understand why they'd give you violet over ultramarine. I don't understand why they'd give you Prussian over ultramarine, because it just doesn't make sense to me. But I used it the best that I could. I would suggest that when you use new paints, regardless of the quality or whether it's professional or student or anything, that you like do a little swatch sheet just to see how they handle, or you just mess around with them, not even trying to make anything look nice, just so that you can figure out how they handle, because these handle differently than other paints I've used. And even professional paints like Holbein handles differently than Daniel Smith or Winsor Newton. They just are different. Like, they're all watercolors and they're all the same, but they just have little different, little bitty changes in their formula that make them different. So I would definitely try and test your paints and play with them to figure out how they work. I'd say that about any art supply, actually. It's not just paint. They don't granulate, which is another thing. I probably already mentioned this, but that's a bummer. So you can't really have that magical granulation oopsie daisy quality that watercolor has, that I personally am here for, especially in certain colors that I expect that to happen, like the burnt sienna or the burnt umber. Yes, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's important. Like, I could paint with them. I think I'm doing a fairly decent job of them. Like, I'm producing, oh my gosh, how many times will I say like? I'm so sorry. I'm producing a product that's similar to paintings I've done in the past. So they're definitely very usable, and if they're the only thing that you can afford or use right now, I definitely get them. I can't not recommend them, but I would not use them for professional work. If you're going to use originals, I would try to get professional quality for that. If you're going to scan these in, or you're going to do like coloring of something, who cares? Use them, they're fine. There aren't that many colors in this box. There's 12, I didn't even mention, but 12 is more than enough if you're going to paint stuff, especially if you're starting out. The colors are standard colors. I would use probably different colors if I wanted. Yeah. Overall, I'd say that this set is good. It's decent. They don't suck. They're not the best, but they're definitely usable. So yeah, that's my review. Thanks for watching. I'll see you the next time. Bye.